Hi, I searched online to see what is the number one thing that people Google when they look up sewing. And do you want to know what the answer is? How to sew a button. So today I'm going to show you how. No intro, let's get right into it. Okay, I've got needles, I've got a button, I've got fabric, and I've got thread. Now, this is just some test fabric that I had, and I chose a really big button so you'd be able to see easier. And I also chose a very large needle. Now, this packet right here are sewing needles. You can see that they're hand sewing needles, but they're longer for people who want to have like a bigger grip. This is the traditional size of a needle that you might find at the store, but it's so little that I was afraid you wouldn't be able to see it on camera. So we're going to use the big needle so I could teach you today, and a big button to make it easy for you to see. I've also got a 4-hole button here so I can show you how to sew on one of those. Did you know down at the bottom of a shirt there are extra buttons for you to use in case you need to replace one? Just look down at the bottom below where all the regular buttons are and boom, extra buttons. Okay, so we've got to thread our needle, right? So I've got our needle here. You can see that it's got the hole at the top, and I've got the thread. Now, make sure that the end of your thread is nice and sharp. You can do that by trimming the section of thread so you make sure that it's nice and sharp. You don't want any frayed pieces because it'll be too hard to get it through the eye of the needle. That's what this hole is called, the eye of the needle. I like my thread. If that's gross, just pretend you didn't see me do that. So now I've put it through the hole. You see that? If that's hard for you, just take your time. You're going to pull the thread through so that the thread ends are halved through the eye of the needle and they meet same distance at the end here. So we're going to make them the same distance, just so it's neat. Okay, so there's my two ends, and here is through the hole. Now we need to tie a knot in the end of this so that it doesn't come through the fabric. Because if we pull our needle through the fabric and the thread just comes through, the button won't stay attached. So here's what I do. I take it, I lick my finger, I wrap it around my first finger. See, I'm wrapping the thread around just like this. You see that? And then I roll my thumb with the finger and it creates this little knotted area. See how it's like bunched up like that? Then I just pull. Voila, instant knot. Now I'm going to do it one more time just so you can see. Okay, so I lick my finger. I wrap the thread around my finger. Then I roll the thread with my thumb, making this coiled up little spot here. You can see there. Then I just pull all of that down and it makes a knot. And look at that big, nice, messy knot. And we want a big knot because we don't want this thread to pull through our fabric, right? So if I take now my fabric here and I go through it with my needle, the thread should stop me. And it does. That means you got a good enough knot. Let's attach this button. Okay, I have put my needle through the first hole of the button. Now I have it right up against the fabric and I'm ready to start sewing. I'm going to sew through this second hole, go down, go through the back, pull it taut, nice. And now I want to put my needle through where I put the first hole because we want to do a circular motion where we're going up the one, down through the other. So you can see here, up through the one, down through the other. So now I'm going to pull this one out, boom. And now I'm going to stick my needle into the hole that we're going down. And I'm going to do this over and over again until I get it really nice and snug. I'm going to do it a few times just so you can get the hang of it. So you got to put your needle through the hole. Make sure it's coming through the hole where we're starting, up, and then we're going to go down through the second hole. You're going to do this repeatedly until it's strong enough. Now let's do a 4-hole button. So I've already pulled the needle through the first hole so I can get it onto my fabric. And now we're going to do the crisscross method where we're going to go crisscross so we can get this nice and strong with an X. So we've come up through this hole and now we're going to go down through this hole. So here we go, just like the 2-hole button to begin. Make sure you pull it nice and snug. Boom, looks good. Now we're going to go to the other hole to make the other crisscross. We're going to go to this top hole. We're going to pull it through there. And then we're going to sew it down to the hole on the bottom. So now we've made our first X shape with our thread. Nice and taut. There you go. Now we're going to repeat this over and over again until this X is nice and built up. You see here where I've started to really build up the X. Now I like to really reinforce, because if this button pulled off, it's probably at a point of stress. It's at a place where it's dealing with a lot of stress. So we need to make sure really reinforce it. And I do that by adding a square. So I'm going to go left, right, left, right, left, right, just around the edges of the X to really reinforce that button and make sure it's not going to come off. So you can see here, I went through one hole, now I'm going through the back, and now I'm going to come up, and now I'm going to go to the side, not the X, I'm going to go to the side, and I'm going to pull down, and it's going to create this square shape of thread around the outside. Now I've done a couple of the squares, and it's starting to get really nice and strong. My button looks like it's not going to move. It looks like I'm almost ready to start tying it off. You just want to make sure that your button isn't going anywhere. Now, once you have your button nice and strong, see that? Pull, 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 it's not going anywhere. Now it's time to tie a knot. Okay, so the way I do it is I'm going to go and I'm going to put my needle underneath the fabric, right under the button where we've been sewing. You see that? No one's going to see this because it's right behind the button. It makes a loop. I put my needle through the loop, boom, and I have my first knot. Now, I like to put a couple of knots to make sure it's really good and strong. We're going to do it again. We're going to go underneath that thread right behind the button. Like I said, this is hidden in the back and no one's going to be able to see it. See, you can't even see my needle. It's nice and hidden. And we're going to do the same thing again. We're going to pull it through. We're going to get a loop. We're going to pull it through that loop and we're going to make a nice knot. It's time to cut our thread. We're going to cut right at the base of the thread, close to where the knot was made, so that way there's no frayed threads. And look, pull on that button, give it a nice little tug, make sure it's good and secure. And that's how you sew on a 4-hole or 2-hole button. Great job sewing on your button, 2-hole, 4-hole. You did a great job. I'm really proud of you. If you want to keep learning how to sew and you want to keep growing as a sewer, you can subscribe to my channel, Christina Wells Designs. I make tons of videos, how to with sewing and crochet. And please make sure to like this video and put a comment below telling me if this was helpful or what other techniques you'd like me to teach you. Be sure to hit the bell so that you get notified every time I make a video. And I can't wait to show you more ways to stay creative and keep on sewing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.